Hello guys, welcome to another video. In this video, we aren't creating anything new. I'm just referring to the example which we already have in the Langchain document. I feel like this is very realistic example which they have there in their GitHub as well as in their documentation also, in case if you are going through the Langgraph. So what they are doing ideally here is the user will ask some question to the assistant and assistants will decide which tool to call. And it has multiple tools, like they have segregated into two tools, like the safe tools and the sensitive tools. So if the tool is a safe tool, I'll explain you what are all the safe tools and what are the sensitive tools. If the tool is a safe tool, then it will directly do some action. If the tool is a sensitive tool, then it will again ask the user for some input, and if the user says yes, then only it will do the action. It's kind of interrupt has been added for the sensitive tools. That's it. So now let's go to the example and we can see what we have done. If you see, I've just imported the required libraries here. I've just imported the required classes and the methods here. And now see here, I've taken it from this GitHub only, where they are creating an SQLite DB for the flights booking, car booking, excursion booking and all. But I have removed everything and I have kept only the flight booking and the car booking alone. So this is just a piece of code I've just copy pasted, and using this particular code they are creating the SQLite DB with the current dates alone, so that when you book a flight it will be with the current dates only instead of with the old dates. That's what they are doing. They are just updating the DB, SQLite DB with the current date so that we can do the action. And now they have a method called fetch user flight information. If you see while running, if you come down and if you see, while we are running, we are passing the passenger ID. So in this SQLite DB, they have the user information based on the passenger ID. So they are passing the passenger ID, right? To fetch all the information about the user, when is the flight booking, when is his car booking, and all these details to get the ticket number, booking, flight ID, flight number, departure, airport, and all. With these tables, all this setup has been done with this method only. We don't need to do any kind of setup. Just copy paste the method and it will make sure you have the correct DB with the current dates. That's it. So to fetch this information we need passenger ID. So we are using this passenger ID and we are fetching the required information. That's what we are doing. We are just executing that and we are fetching that results. That's it. That's what is being done in this fetch user flight information based on the passenger ID. If you see, they're getting the passenger ID from the config. That's the first tool. And the second is a flights tool. To search for the flights in the database, we have one particular method. It is using, it is querying in this SQLite DB only. So that's it. And to update the flight, we have one. To cancel the flights, we have one. And similarly for hotels, to search hotels, we have one method, and we are not doing anything. I've just copy pasted these methods and we are not doing anything related to the Langgraph or Langchain here. It's just a plain Python methods to query something in the SQLite DB or to update something in the SQLite DB. We don't need to bother about this because this is not a Langchain stuff or a Langgraph stuff. That's it. So to cancel the hotels, we have all this. So we have just taken two things. One is for the flights, to cancel, book flights, and second is to cancel, update, or book the hotels. These two stuff only. These two methods I have copied from their documentation, from this documentation. That's it. Now if you come here, there are these three methods, and this is just to print. We don't need to bother about this. These two are the very important methods which we need to understand. So if you see, let's take the first method. So if you see, they are passing the tools. They have all the about tools which we have seen, right? Update flight, update hotel, cancel flight, cancel hotel, and all. So all these tools have been binded inside this tool node class. Okay, they are passing the tools to this tool node class. And why we are to pass to this tool node class is, we can leverage the extra functionalities. Like we see, when you pass this to the tool node, we can use this particular method. So what this particular method does is, in case while calling this tool, if something has been failed, then we are saying please handle that with this fallback method. And in this fallback method, we are updating the messages in the state. If you see here, we are getting the state here and we are taking the very recent message from the state, very last message from the states, and if it's a tool calls, we are iterating that and we are saying please fix your mistakes. We are updating the state messages to handle the tool errors so that it will query. So let's assume here instead of booking ID it has passed null. Okay, our LLM has passed null here. Okay, in that case it might fail, this update statement might fail. So for to handle these kind of scenarios, we are doing this fallback method. Inside this fallback method we are updating the state messages. I'll show you what is state and all. In Langgraph we maintain the states and some attributes in it so that we can use them. So I'll show you that. So we are updating that particular state messages with this error message saying to fix that, so that again it will rerun and make sure it pass the correct values while updating the database or while inserting something in the database, anything. So this tool node is helping us to handle some kind of fallbacks in case if any error happens. That's the major purpose of tool node here. If you see, to execute tools in Langgraph, we can use tool node, which will have some extra features like to handle in case of errors or some failures. So that's the purpose of this particular create tool node with fallback, and this is how we are handling the fallback, just by appending the error message so that it can pass the right values while updating or inserting into the database. That's it. Now if you see in Langgraph, we do create some class, state class, inside which we pass the attributes so that we can use them at any point in time. We are using two attributes. One is messages and the second is user information. So user information is what we get about the user based on the passenger ID. So we'll see it how and where we are calling this. So now instead of directly calling the LLM, what we do is like we prompt and then we pass that prompt to the LLM. So that's called the chain, right? Chain is nothing but the prompt first, prompt message, and then the LLM, right? So now we use this chain dot invoke. This is how we do by passing some message, right? So instead of doing this, we are handling this using this assistant class, and we are doing the same stuff here only. If you see here, this assistant class has one constructor. It is taking this particular chain. Runnable is nothing but a chain here only. I'll show you. And now if you see it has another method called call. It comes true here. And if you see here, they are invoking this particular chain here. I said right, runnable is nothing but chain only. So chain dot invoke of state. With these two attributes, we are just invoking this particular chain. And now if you see, if there is anything, like if there is no tool calls, if there is no content after invoking the chain, then we are again updating the state messages. Respond with the real output, because there is nothing, we can't find anything after invoking. So please respond with some real output is what we are again updating the state. So again it will rerun. How it will rerun again, I'll show you. And we are just returning that messages. If everything is fine after invoking the chain, if everything is fine, it comes to the else block and it will break. Nothing gonna happen. So I'm just creating an LLM here. That's it. If you see, I'm creating the prompt. I'm just saying like you are a helpful customer support assistant for Swiss Airlines. Use the provided tools to search for flights, company policies and other information to book and update and everything. So we are passing the user information here. We are just placeholding here. We'll just pass it while passing this particular prompt to the LLM. That's it. And if you see, we have segregated the tools into two categories. One is the safe tools, one is the sensitive tools. Okay. So the safe tools will directly, it won't ask for any user confirmation. It will just insert or update whatever you want directly. But for the sensitive tools, where we are ideally handling the update and cancelling and doing some kind of inserts in the database, we are again checking the user confirmation. That's it. I'll show you where we are doing that, but we have segregated the tools into two categories, safe and sensitive. That's it. For sensitive tool names, we are just getting the names. If you see, we are iterating that and getting those names. These names will come as the strings. That's it. These are all the names. That's it. Now, if you see here, we have a prompt which we have created here. This prompt, and we have binded the LLM with the tool safe and sensitive. So this is the runnable. This is what is being passed to this assistant method here. Instead of self.runnable, we are getting this particular chain. This part 3 assistant runnable dot invoke of state. That's what gonna happen. See, if you see, we have just built a chain, right? We'll pass it in the here. If you see, this assistant is called with this particular chain. See, this assistant is called with this chain, and self dot runnable will become the chain which we have, and that's how we invoke the chain, right? Chain dot invoke of. And if there is anything wrong, we are handling it again by updating the message. If there is a no anything wrong, and if it is working fine, it will just break and come out. If you see, I'm creating a state graph. In Langgraph, we do create a state graph with some class, right? The state class in which we have all the required attributes, user information and messages. That's it. And this is my object to the state graph. Now, if you see, we are having a method called user information, and we are returning a dictionary user information and whatever this particular method has returns. This particular method is what we have seen above. This one, where based on the passenger ID, we are getting the all this information, all these columns information. Now, if you see, as we have the builder, as we have the object to the state graph, now we can create the nodes, right? In Langgraph, we do create the nodes. So the builder dot add node of the first node is the user information, fetch user information. Okay. And now if you see, after start, first go to this particular node only is what we are saying. Next, we are adding the next set of required nodes. If you see, after you get the user information, we are calling this particular node, okay, assistant node. And what is this assistant node? It is calling an assistant class with this particular chain which we have built above. This particular chain, the prompt and the tools binded with an LLM. That's it. And then we have another node called save tools. If you see, we are, instead of directly calling the tools, we are using this particular method, create tool node with fallback, which we have seen. What this particular method is doing, it is leveraging the tool node functionality, and in case of failure, it is calling this particular handle tool error method here, and here we are just updating the messages so that it will rerun and make sure it passes the right values while updating or inserting into the database. In case if it has passed some wrong values and it got some error, to handle those kind of scenarios only. That's it for sensitive tools also. Instead of calling the tools directly, we are just calling by using this particular method. That's it. Now we have created all the nodes and we have created edges for the first step alone. After start, go to the user information. So after user information, go to assistant, we are saying. But after calling an assistant, we are using this particular method to get the flow. Now if after calling an assistant, and if the assistant has something to do, then it comes here, and if the assistant has nothing to do, then it returns end. That's it. So what we are showing, we are passing the state to this tool condition. What this tool condition method does is, it will check what is the next action which has to happen. So it indirectly will take the last message from this state. This tool condition is an inbuilt method from Langgraph or a Langchain. So what it does is, it takes the very last message from this state, because the state has the messages, right? See here, and check whether the last message has something to do. If the last message has something, then it comes here. Like something means like the tool calling or something. In case if the last message doesn't have any tool calling, then it returns to the end. What if the last message has something? So what we are doing is, we are just reading again the last message as the AI message. So if the last message has tool calls, then we have the tool calls. So we are just checking if it's a sensitive tool, means go to sensitive tool. If it is a safe tool, go to safe to tool. So we are just reading the very last message from the state and checking whether it's a sensitive tool or a safe tool using this. So now if you see, that's how we are adding the conditional edges, right? So first assistant is called, after user information, assistant is called. But after assistant, we have to use this particular method and decide if there is anything in the very listened message, then do what it has. If not, then go to the end, is what being decided in this method. Okay. So if you see, and now if you see, again after safe tools, we are calling an assistant, and again after the sensitive tools, we are calling an assistant. Why we are calling, I'll show you down. Okay. So now I've just printed that as a graph. I've just added some basic memory and I've just printed. If you see, I've just added this functionality. Before sensitive tools, please do interrupt. Before safe tools, I don't need an interruption, but for sensitive tools, I need an interruption. That is what I've been mentioned here. That's it. This is the graph. So start, fetch user information, assistant, safe tools, again go to assistant, sensitive tools, again go to assistant. From assistant only come to the end. Why? I'll show you here, because that's how we have designed. So if you see, I have some config where I am using the thread ID and the passenger ID. You want to know more details about why we have to use the thread ID and all, you can watch my Langgraph tutorials. And now we have set of questions. One is to check and update the flights, and another is to book a hotel and all. Set of questions. Now we are iterating these questions one by one. Okay, the first question comes. Okay, now this is a graph, right? Phase 3 graph, this one. Okay, this one, right? Builder dot compile. Builder means where we have created all the nodes and all. So this phase 3 graph, sorry, part 3 graph dot stream, okay, messages with the user question we are triggering. Okay, so we have triggered with the first question. Let's okay, so now if there are any events in that, it will just print it. Okay, after printing, if you see here, again this graph we are just checking get state. We are asking to get the current state. So in case of sensitive tools, okay, we will have some value in this snapshot. So it comes the snapshot, this condition gets satisfied, and then it comes here and it will ask the user if you want to approve or you want to refresh your question, like that. So if the user gives yes, then it will invoke it. That means this sensitive tool gets triggered, and then it goes to the assistant, and from assistant it goes to the end. So in case if the user has decided to rephrase his question, okay, instead of just giving yes, if he has decided to rephrase his question, so if you see, it comes to the else block in that case. Now we are updating the messages again. If you see the state messages, we are updating with the tool message, and we are updating and we are invoking the graph. So what happens is, see, once it comes to sensitive tool and user has decided to update it, he will update it. So the last message in the state will have the updated message, and again it goes to the assistant, and once it goes to the assistant, again it will come to the either sensitive tool. If he provides yes again, then it goes back to the assistant, and from assistant it goes back to the end. So that's how we have designed this particular loop here. That's it, just to handle the sensitive scenario. That's what has happened. If you see here, let me execute it once so that we'll get a better idea. And see, this is the updated question, update my flight. So it goes under sensitive tool. So let me run it all. If you see here, this got created, so it will set up every time. That SQLite DB is set up every time freshly. See, now it is asking. So I will just paste the same question. Instead of just typing yes, I am just pasting the same question. Okay, so that gets updated here, and the same graph gets triggered again. When we pass, also it went fine. If you see here, see, this is the question we have. See, what happened here is, based on this particular question, we got the AI question like this. Would you like to update the flights? Instead of saying just yes, we have just given the same question. So if you see, the assistant has decided to trigger this particular tool here. Okay, this is how we can create a graph or an agent using Langgraph for the things which you want to handle with the database, like for the backend operations. In case if you want to update the database and all, instead of manual intervention, the agent can do the stuff like this. That's it. Thank you so much for watching.